Hi, I'm Michelle Ockers and welcome to the very first edition of my monthly What I Learned This Month video. I've been inspired by the Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella to start these monthly reflections. It's one of a series of reflective activities I currently do on a routine basis, on a daily, weekly and monthly basis. And I'm just adding to those series of reflections because I think there is such an incredible power in reflection for learning and growth. So I'm going to share three things each month, three things that I've learned. And the first thing I'm going to share is called strategic procrastination. I've been reading this book called Originals by Adam Grant. And you can also find the idea that I'm going to talk about in a TED talk that he's done. If you search that up, The Surprising Habits of Original Thinkers. I'll put some resources in links with the videos as well. In chapter 4 of the book called Fools Rush In, Adam, who is a social scientist and a professor, talks about research done by one of his PhD students around the potential link between procrastination and original ideas. And what their research found was that strategically procrastinating leads to the generation of more original ideas and better quality ideas. So what does strategic procrastination look like? It looks like starting a task, not just putting it off right until close to the deadline, but starting a task, getting it underway, and then deliberately putting it aside to kind of allow the subconscious to generate some ideas, then picking it up again closer to the deadline. And I thought this was really interesting because I've noticed with my own creative process, so when I'm trying to write a blog, for instance, or design a workshop, what I do tend to do is follow this process where I pick something up, start doing a bit of design work. Often I'm a little anxious about it at first, thinking I don't know where this is going or if I'm on the right track. And it can feel a bit overwhelming. So I'll reach a point, put it aside, and then closer to the deadline normally come back to it and find that things have somehow synthesized and I've gotten some fresh insights and it pulls together. The other thing I do is I tend to use others as a sounding board. So after I've done that initial dive into the task, initial thinking about the task, I will either talk to people or sometimes put it out there on Twitter or LinkedIn to bounce it off other people and get some ideas and input. So there you go. There's actually some research, some evidence behind what I have been doing naturally. And for me, the impact of this is that I can relax a bit more and know that I can trust this process, that it actually works and I don't need to feel so anxious when I first pick something up. Make sure though that I pick it up early enough to give myself time for that kind of synthesis to happen and the creativity to happen when I pick it back up. The second thing I learned this month that I'm going to share is about the challenge of defining how deep expertise in a domain has been built up. And the context for this learning has been that I've been working on skill definitions for a capability map for the learning and development profession. So what skills does a learning and development professional or a learning and development function need? And writing up these skills in conjunction with others as part of a project. Now, there was a particular skill, face-to-face facilitation, where I was basically working with someone who had deep expertise as a facilitator and endeavouring to get her to define what the skills, the observable behaviours and skills are of someone who's operating at an advanced level as a facilitator versus someone who's at a beginner level. And it was very challenging. At first, what I got back was a definition more of the outcome that an advanced facilitator can get versus a beginner. So I needed to probe a bit more and sort of I asked the question, well, what is it that an advanced person does that a beginner doesn't do? And the response I got back next was, well, there's a lot of intuition involved. You kind of just intuitively know what's happening with a group, how to move a group, how to shift them past blockages, how to get them to generate creative ideas. So then I stepped back again and I said, or reframed the question, I said something along the lines of, so if you were watching an advanced facilitator at work versus a beginner, what would you see them doing that's different? So this idea of defining skills through observable behaviours can be really powerful. And I've also seen or heard other people ask an expert to think of watching a video of somebody at work who had deep skills in a particular area, and what would they see on the video. But it just made me realise that it's very challenging for people who've got deep expertise, have been doing something for so long that they're unconsciously competent. They've forgotten even how they do it because they're so good at it. It's very difficult to get them to define the skills that go into exhibiting and applying that skill at that advanced level. I did share that on Snapchat. I do a daily vlog on Snapchat, and I shared that observation. And Helen Blunden came back to me and suggested that something she's found helpful is to get people who aren't quite as advanced in their expertise, so have more recently built up their skills, because it will be fresher for them what skills they had to master. So I thought that was a good tip, and I'll use that if I have the courage to face another capability map again. The third thing I wanted to share that I've learned, and this is a pretty quick one, is the impact of tracking my time. I haven't had to track my time for clients for some period of time, a couple of years really, but more recently I've started tracking my time using a tool called Toggl, T-O-O-G-L, really easy to use. And what I've found is tracking my time helps me to focus and prioritize better. I'm more conscious of how I'm using my time, and I'm less likely to get distracted and go off task. So neat tool, and I would recommend that there is value in tracking your time, even if you don't have to.